that's the idea of that kind of situation, because it gives us total control. So instead of having to deal with 32 sliders, we only have to deal with 4 sliders. This is a 4 subgroup or 4-button board. It allows us to be able to do a lot of complex things in a very simple place. Other part of this whole thing is to think about how we're going to do recordings and those kind of things. And for that, we want to look up here at the master section and how this is set up. So the processed outputs, which are right here, we have processed outputs, and they are for broadcast and recording, the ones that say stereo outputs as well. That allows us to take a separate mix, including the ambience mics on the back, which is the audience response mics, take those microphones and with everything that's coming out of the board and send that over to the CD recorder or out to the radio station or to a podcast or to a live streaming environment. Any of those are covered here under the stereo outs. Over here under the processed outs, those are designed for covering balconies, under balconies, over balconies, for covering wings, or for covering the nursery or the cry room or anything of that nature. All those processed outputs are designed, they have built-in delay lines so that we have a speaker, say in the main sanctuary here, and it's 100 feet back to the one that's in the balcony. If you were to turn them on at the same time, you would hear a very distinct delay between the two. This allows us to dial in a delay that only goes to those processed outs, and actually it will signal align the two frequency outputs of those speakers so they appear to come to the user and listener as one device. Perfect application for a church environment. That's what we're looking at for that. The other part of it is we have this whole digital section up here, this whole blue screen. This is where we have the feedback eliminator, the reverbs, all the EQs, the delays, all that stuff is built in. It's also built in over here on this series of mixers from TV, called the FX series. The same processor is built into the same tube. So if you needed one that was 16 channel on a rack mount, that would work for that application. It has the feedback eliminator, has all the EQ, the processing. The only thing it does not have is the output delays. Very similar in its environment. One other thing that every church, we were talking about the compressors earlier, this allows us to see right here, where it's out on the choir channel right now, treating this as a choir mic. And you can see that the red, that the amber LED, the yellow one right there, is going on and off. And it comes on when I stop speaking, and it goes off when I start speaking. And so it's basically, we're turning this mic on and off every time that I speak. And one thing we can do to hear it without, this is what it sounds like without it. It sounds much more hollow, and it sounds more loose. We want to tighten that up by bringing the, we call this a downward expander, by bringing the downward expander in, and it gives it a much more polished, professional sound. Plus, when I don't speak, the mic is completely off, so it's not picking up any hiss, any noise, anything in the room. Completely quiet. The one above it that has the red LED beside it, this one is our compressor. And so it's going to compress. You can see here the red light is flashing. What it's doing is it's turning this microphone down. So I'm going to keep doing this, turn the compressor off, and you hear how much louder it gets. That's without the compressor, and that's with the compressor. So in essence, it's turning it down. So it doesn't matter if I speak very softly. If I speak very loud, you hear about the same volume. That's very useful for any person, especially a pastor who is not used to wearing a mic or tends to eat the mic and then pull it far away and eat the mic and pull it far away. Those two kind of things. We can control that with that compression. There's compression built in on all the channels that are designed for speech microphones in this environment. So it's set up to do that whole thing. Let me walk us through here real quick the idea of how we're going to go about taking equalization and being able to do something with it. So if I have on channel 9 here, where I am, my voice, what I want to do is spend a little time just walking us through the EQ. Because what really matters on most consoles, you'll have something like this. That's your bass, your mid-range, and your treble. And you'll see that the there's always one that's semi close to the other one. There are 3 dark blue and 1 light blue. The light blue and the middle dark blue are connected. That's your mid-range and your mid-sweep. And the easiest way to solve this for a singer, or a speaker, or a drummer, it doesn't matter, whatever the application is we want to set first the EQ completely flat. And then we just have the person sing or play or whatever it is they normally do. And then we say, hey, can you take just a minute, I want to do something, I'm going to make it ring and sound bad for a moment so it'll sound good the whole time. So we boost up the mid-range control here. We start with it in the lowest frequency. We begin sweeping that around. And you hear it feeding back at that point. It doesn't feed back down here, and it doesn't feed back over here. It feeds back right there. And we pull that from the plus position to the minus position. And all we've done is we've eliminated the core frequency issue. And we call this ringing the system out, or ringing out a channel. That's all we do. It allows us to be able to fix the core problem, because we don't know when it's completely flat and we bring the volume up and it starts to squeal. We don't know where that necessarily is. We've got a problem, but we don't know where the problem is. And so this allows us to find the problem by starting with it down here and sweeping this up till it rings and pulling it back. And it just clears the whole thing up. Allows us to have what we need to have in the system without creating any real problem. And it takes about 15 seconds per person. Real easy way to step through it. So that we do the same thing with the kick drum, with the bass guitar, the whole thing. So for instance here, if I switch over to the tracks and just walk through the track settings. All we did there was just simply took about a little bit of energy out, around 700 hertz. It's real common in that keyboard to do that. And we listen to the acoustic guitar. The energy in that, where it was the most brassy or the most annoying, the worst part of the sound. So we do the same thing now. We just took the heaviness out of the electric guitar at that point. And we listen to the kick drum. All we're doing there is taking, there's generally a flappy kind of sound to a bass drum around 200 hertz. So we're just going to use our mid-morph to do that because you can hear it. We're just looking to tighten that up. And then if we look at a bass guitar, which are on track 7. Where does it make the room sound the worst? Because one of the easiest things to do is to think about that perspective here and just create some energy for you here.
it's actually vibrating the drop ceiling at that particular frequency. So if you had a bass guitar doing that, it'd do exactly the same thing. See here at 68 hertz it doesn't do it, but here it vibrates. You can hear now it's setting up within the air duct work. It's starting to set up that point in there. So if you were to play that note, which is 80 hertz, which is about a 14-foot wavelength, then you're going to create that exact sound. So if a bass player here with a bass amp and they do that, that's a problem. So we have to start looking at mechanical aspects, or if we can't help it, if it's in the church already, what we would typically do is to go ahead and put a cut around 80 hertz with our equalizer on the bass at that point to get rid of that frequency that it's generating. So it allows us to kind of do that. You can often just work with the bass player, especially, that's where most of this energy is going to come from. If they play a particular note and it lights up the room, just ask them what note was that, and then you can basically work from that point backward, figuring out kind of what frequency that's going to be within the spectrum. So you start putting this back together, and now you begin to see, okay, this does make sense. I see what we're talking about. Because now let's start taking, instead of just the one or two instruments we were dealing with at the time here, and let's start looking at the mix as a whole. Those two play nice together, you can hear the distinction between the two. That now allows us to start to bring in the other parts of it, which we have and so now let's look at the bass guitar, and it has to play nice with the kick drum. Nice tight foundation where the two are playing well together. You can then add the rest of the drums in here. Because what we're after is how do we spread those out. So you can see basically we've got a number of cuts across here. So in the bass region, on the vocals and the acoustic guitar we've got cuts, electric guitar we've got cut. The only place we've actually boosted any low end would be on the kick drum and bass guitar. Then we're always going to do a cut up in this region here where we're trying to cut. This is on a vocal, we're trying to cut the electric here where it's a little nasty. All of those cuts that are in play there, that allows us to kind of have this tightness to pull together. So the band starts. One of the key elements is we've got to get the singers to be on top of this. So if you listen to the vocal by itself raw, and we'll start to pull it together.
Thought of me, you are Lord above all. Lord, you.
So what we've got to do is go and fix the problem with his vocal. So if we listen to his vocal, just completely flat. And we cue it from channel 2.
Oh, crucified, laid behind the stone.
And here or there, it's just about to take your head off. So that's the frequency we're going to cut. So we're going to do a small cut there.
You live to die.
And it freed it up. You can hear the S's, the P's, and all this kind of stuff. Generally speaking, it's between 250 and 500 hertz on the human voice. So now we've got to add to that. We've got to bring some effects into it. That is to kind of wet it up or give it some space.
Rejected and alone, like a rose trampled on the ground. Lord, you took the fall.
So we can either do that, or we'll go over here and create what we call a tap delay, and then bring that into play.
You thought of me, you are Lord above all. Lord, you were crucified.
how much of that's gonna come back in. So we're gonna roll that back down and bring that down just a little bit, 'cause it's a little too much, and just have it decay a little sooner.
You live.
So now it's gonna go away sooner. So as he sings, the tap delay doesn't catch back in on top of his next phrase.
To die, rejected and alone.
Which allows now, as we bring the rest of the band back in, to have it.
Like a rose, tremble on the ground. You took the fall. You thought of me. Above all. Like a rose, tremble on the ground.
So you get the idea how that starts to blend together, pull the mix together. And that's the basic core of the mix. That's what you're after, is to pull that whole section together, so everything ends up supporting the vocal, instead of the vocal having to fight against everything. So, that's kind of the gist of what we had to cover on the technical part of this. And you guys have some issues. I know you had some acoustics things. So in your church, what you said it was a very harsh kind of sound, and you can't even turn the subs on.
We don't even have subs.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Is it
Because of
what's kind of the worst part of the sound?
You know, I don't know what good sound sounds like.
Okay.
Really, I mean, this
Yeah.
sounds really amazing.
Yeah.
Here, and this probably isn't even optimal.
Yeah, well, this is just pulled straight off of a live
Yeah.
mix that I did. Yes, right off the
So
board.
it's-
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, we just kind of make do with what we got. But
Yeah.
I don't know what good sounds like.
Okay, well, the big key element there is to take the vocals first and then be able to build a mix around it. So when you're doing a rehearsal, or you guys everybody just sort of starts and you kind of make it go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Generally.
If you could ask them if they would be open to being able to say, hey, can we start with the vocals and get them kind of down in and then kind of build things around it? But that's.
Well, and really, the only thing that we're putting through the
Yeah.
system are vocals
Okay.
and the piano.
Oh, okay. So the rest of the band, are they playing through live amps and that kind of stuff?
Well, the drums are just straight up.
Yeah, the acoustic drums?
No. Oh, yes.
Yes. So, but
With
there's
no
no
mics on them or anything like
There's
that.
no shield or anything?
There is a shield,
Okay.
but it's not. It's just plexiglass. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
There's no deadening in there or anything.
Right, sure.
So that can get a little crazy depending
Yeah.
on the drummer.
Right.
And then the piano is going through the system.
Yeah.
But the bass is just an amp, and we don't have an acoustic right now.
Okay.
Or electrics.
Okay.
That's it.
Now, when you start to get it loud, you said that you're running into what kind of problem? It's like,
Well, it's mainly when they're during the preacher.
okay,
You
oh,
know,
okay.
Where when he gets wound up,
Yeah,
you know, when everybody's clapping or whatever, the
Yeah.
ambient noise just drowns him
it's so
out.
high, yeah. That's what you're talking about, the acoustic channel.
Yeah.
But
But
is he
I
wearing a
think-
lapel mic or a
No.
headset or a handheld?
No, we haven't. He uses a cordless. It's a Sennheiser.
Okay,
cordless.
handheld.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So,
But it's we've actually looked into some sort of, you know.
yeah, the handheld actually sound really good. The big key on that, on the Sennheiser handhelds, you got one of the dark gray ones. Yeah, with black headshell. Probably on that, you're going to want to cut energy right around 400 hertz.
400?
And the reason for that, I'll show you here, is that it has 400 has this tonality right here. And you can see, as I'm speaking, it's really interfering with my voice, and it's really hard to tell what I'm saying, because that energy at 400 is exactly right in the middle of the voice. It's just really strong. It also happens to be a frequency that's really prominent in a typical run. We almost always have a problem at 125, 250, 400. So that 400 is going to be that part that just, you can hear what the preacher's saying, but you can't understand a word that he's saying. And that, so you could probably do a cut on that, his channel around 400 and make a huge improvement.
Yeah, and a lot of times, you know, we have a different set of cordless mics for
Right.
our praisers.
Sure.
And we never even get to test the
Oh, yeah,
preacher's mic at all.
yeah, yeah, 'cause there's so much going on.
Right,
Yeah,
just-
yeah, I understand.
So I'll definitely do that.
Okay. And then on the acoustic treatment, one of the companies that is very common for doing this is RLX Acoustics.
RLX.
It's AURALEX. RLX, and they're based out of Indianapolis. And if you go to RLX.com, what you can do is they have an actual form there that you can print out, and you kind of draw out the room, or you can send them some PDF files or pictures, and they'll then send you a study on the room for free. So very good. There's a guy named Gavin Haverstack, who is their acoustician, and he and I are good buddies, and he does a really fine job. Because there's a lot of math to it, that's the problem. It gets real complicated real fast.
Right.
And so,
We have some weird needles.
yeah, no, anytime you get something, that's not perpendicular, then you're gonna get into a lot of
There's
trace
no
elements.
tiles, it's wood
Oh,
beams,
yeah.
open
So,
air beams.
Yeah, if you check out RLX, I think you can get a good steering,
Yeah,
toward
and
the right
that's
place.
what we're interested in doing, is we wanna buy
Yeah.
someone's design.
Right, yeah,
Cause we can get the panels, we have a place where we can get the panels
Yeah.
and put some fabric on it.
right, yeah,
Mount it to the walls, not difficult, we just
Sure.
need to know where,
right, yeah.
so,
Yeah, he'd be your guy.
excellent.
What challenges are you guys facing?
Dead spot
I'm sorry?
for headset.
Yes.
With the deads, we get, what do you call that? They just, certain areas you get it just shut out.
Oh, where the wireless drops out completely?
The sound, you just.
Right, you're losing the sound.
You're losing the sound,
Right,
dead spots.
yeah. Oh, on your wireless when you're moving around?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Do you know what kind of wireless you have? Brand or
Not so bad.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is it just that one that drops out, or the others do as well?
They all,
Okay,
because every time I get rid of one and think the other one will be better,
right.
and I can't think of the brand.
Now, have you worked with Jim's Music before with Mark or any guys?
No, most of my shopping is done over internet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Kingdom Connection.
Sure.
Kingdom.
You do frequency coordination, can you do that?
Yeah, we can do it.
Yeah, those kind of things you can't really do over the internet.
I mean, but the
Yeah.
equipment that we buy.
Right, I understand. Well, I'm saying, my point is that it's always better to buy it locally, because then you can get
Well,
somebody.
it wasn't here.
I understand. But we'll get Mark
Yeah,
involved.
music, what's that? Henry Music, or take that with
Yeah.
very limited.
Yeah, but what needs to happen is frequency coordination among all your wireless, because what happens if you have one wireless on, then you get the harmonics based on that, but once you have two wireless, now you have 8 harmonics. 3 wireless, you have 24 harmonics. By the time you get 5 or 6, you have literally 100 harmonics that are all interfering with each other. What you have to do is then space those properly, and it takes a lot of time. It just takes some either just trial and error, or a very sophisticated program called Workbench.
Even with the rest of the mics turned off.
Yep.
Still be-
Yeah, because anytime you're in an urban environment like this, if you're in Green Bay, where you've got digital television stations, and you've got EMS, and you've got all the wireless that's happening, that's going on, all of those are creating harmonics as well. So you basically have to find, we call them clear alleys. You have to find clear alleys. You can put the wireless. Once you do that, everything clears up. It's no problem, but it's completely location dependent. In other words, a church 2 miles down the road might have a completely different problem. So it's one of those things where you get these guys out and just have them spend some time and figure out what's going on and why is this not working. We can also do things like move the receivers around, reorient the antennas, or put an antenna distro on, things of that nature. So there are a number of solutions that we can come up with for it. That can be fixed without buying new wireless.
Yeah, well, I won't buy.
Yeah.
I go with the hand. You don't get it with the handheld.
Right.
And that's kind of handicapped there a little.
Yeah, that's something these guys can
The
fix.
cordless, I don't like the holding stuff.
Sure.
I like the freedom.
Yeah, I understand.
walk around.
Sure.
That
Yeah.
give me a little
Understand.
pep.
Yeah.
Do you guys, what's that? You know, PowerPoint? We are looking at upgrading to, he could talk. And when he come back, we wanted, because we are not more.
Presentation.
Presentation.
Right, sure,
thing.
like you're looking at Easy Worship or Media Shout,
Right.
Pro Presenter.
So
Yeah,
we wanna
sure.
go, we're looking at, go on computer and,
Mhm.
all
Yeah.
that before.
Yeah, these guys can handle that, no problem.
Okay, have to
Yeah.
come by,
Yeah.
give us estimate.
Okay.
We just bought a new receiver, so.
Okay.
A new mixer, so.
Okay, yeah, you're set there, you're good, yeah.
Well, it'll do for now.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. And we just bought new speakers.
Okay,
So now we wanna do this part, get the
Right.
second part of it to
Okay.
upgrade, so.
he's been in town for years and years.
Where?
Yeah.
We don't wanna say how many,
That's right,
but
yeah.
This is a new location.
Yeah, but he's a veteran of this whole thing, and then Jim's been around up in the UP for how many years?
so, 26.
25 years, so quarter century, yeah. So they've definitely got a track record.
And that's why we're here, to come inside and take a look at.
Yeah.
See what, give us a price estimate on
Right.
the total package that we
Sure.
upgraded.
Anything else you guys are facing?
No, I really didn't know what to expect.
Yeah,
from
sure,
Kingdom,
no
so
problem,
this is-
yeah.
I did learn a few things though, so.
Man, I appreciate you guys coming out tonight. It's good. So, we can hang out here a little bit and show you anything up here you want to see and whatever, but make sure you get with these guys
Yeah,
here.
get us
'cause
card
they're-
and get us set for
Yeah.